The NewsX Business World special panels on the Indian economy, the show where we look at the current state of the Indian economy, how much recovery has taken place, what more still needs to be done to aid India Inc. We've also, of course, been analyzing the budget 2021. Joining us, as always, is a special panel. We have Siddharth Goenka, founder Octave Hotels and Aiosell, joining us live on this broadcast. Mr. Goenka, let me begin with you first. Now, no doubt, one of the biggest impacts of the pandemic has been on the hospitality and on the tourism sector. How was the last year for you, Siddharth Goenka? And how much have you been able to recover from the COVID hit?
Thank you all for having me here. Yes, the COVID pandemic was the hardest hit on the hospitality sector. Especially for our hotels, we focus more on the city hotels, which rely a lot on business travel. So over the last, you can say 10, 12 months, we've had the lowest business that we have ever seen in our entire careers. So the first 4 months were looking really low. However, in the last couple of months, the things opening up and the fear of pandemic sort of subsiding, we are seeing things slowly bouncing back. But still, we are not even close to, I would say, 50% of what we were pre-pandemic. Although this is a very different story with the city hotels that we operate in. When I talk to my friends in the leisure hotel segment in markets like, like Goa and some of the holiday destinations, the pickup there is much better, and they are seeing levels, some of them have even exceeded pre-COVID levels.
Okay.
So,
yeah, that's an interesting point. Go ahead, complete your point.
No, so one of the things that has changed fundamentally is that business travel has altered itself almost permanently. So the fact that we are having this meeting on Zoom, this is kind of the norm that has taken over. So in general, people have reduced their travel, and so many city hotels that rely on this kind of transient business travel will have to find new ways to adapt ourselves.
Okay, that's an interesting point that you're giving. So city hotels are finding it a bit harder to recover than, say, leisure hotels or standalone luxury hotels, perhaps. Are you also a bit disappointed, Siddharth, that despite this big hit that has been made to your sector, the government perhaps has not been too forthcoming with help, direct help? Is that a disappointment?
That's always a complaint from the hospitality industry. We believe when, tourism in general has a big multiplier effect to the economy. So every dollar that we spend in tourism generates an incremental amount of employment. And hence, we always request that, especially at this time, most of the hospitality sector has been under stress that we've not seen before. So yes, we would have definitely liked for the government to give some kind of short-term incentives, if not long-term, to help the economy revive, to help our hotels revive, to make it easier for people to travel, for hotel owners to be able to survive. So many hotels I'm based in Bangalore, but all cities who have temporarily shut down their shutters. So it's really a tough time, and of course, we would always hope for the government to provide us an olive branch.
Dr. Batra, you're on mute, sir.
I have to unmute the economy as the Prime Minister unmuted the finance and the finance minister unmuted the economy. Now, if I may ask you, we know the situation with hospitality, Siddharth, but in the last 30 days, leisure travel has gone up, and you talked about Goa, but also there is staycations, there is, people are taking breaks, people are working from hotels. And if I may say, looking at what's happening around, and let's take, both of them and me are part of media companies, we are bringing our physical events back from this weekend. So our first physical event starts on Friday. Now that's Thursday actually.
And our first physical event happened last month, in fact, interestingly as well.
Yes. Yeah. So what is happening is, I think there is some semblance of normal. I'm not saying it's normal or we should behave it's normal, but I think there is some semblance of normal. And Uday, you remember, you mentioned on the show that the finance ministry officials have indicated that for a lot of sectors that are contact sectors, as things improve, there may be a sectoral incentive given. Yes. So maybe for the hospitality sector, we could expect something in April or May. That's a possibility, and the business will, in my view, only come up. The question is of ARRs. Will the ARRs come back or not? What is your sense, Siddharth?
I think it will take a while for the ARRs to actually come up. If you look at any of the city hotels again, and in any of the major cities in India, from Bangalore to Bombay to Delhi, you will see that a lot of quality hotels are selling themselves at ARRs that are almost 30, 40, 50% lower than what they were selling before. So I think that, yes, the fear, the stigma of COVID is still around, which is why the ARRs have taken a big hit. And I personally operate in a sector that is even lower than the branded segment. So we are a semi-branded segment of hotels. So if you can imagine, for example, a ginger or a lemon tree selling at 1,500, 2,000 rupees, then where would hotels like ours sell at? So the point that you made about ARR is very real. It is definitely one of the biggest challenges that we are facing. But like we say, every calamity finds an opportunity. So one of the things that I also own a technology company, which is an automation, revenue management, and a hotel operations company. So one of the things we tell all our hotel partners and ourselves is that the way out of this is to improve and increase the element of automation, digitization, and technology and efficiency in our hotels. And that's the only way, till the times we expect the ARRs to come up to pre-COVID levels. This is probably a way to not only survive, but also pave its way for more efficiency in the future and hopefully more profitability in future.
I mean, let me ask you at this point, how do you see the budget overall, and what is the impact on your sector and your company?
So overall, I mean, one of the things about the budget is that it is a forward-leaning, sort of a non-interfering budget. So I would say that there hasn't been any specific impact on our industry as a whole. For our startup, yes, there are some softs that have been given to the startups and to the SMEs, which we fall under. For example, the income tax break for the startups has been extended to 2022. Some of the income tax criteria has been relaxed. So overall, as a whole, I think I'm positive about the budget. The budget was a look in the right direction. However, we in the tourism and hospitality industry would have wanted something, a little bit of X factor to help us survive.
Thank you so much.
Okay. Taking that back across to Siddharth Goenka. Siddharth, in terms of your recovery for the hospitality sector, are you seeing a 3-month period, 6-month period? What's the realistic timeline that you're looking at? As you said, city hotels is something that is still affected. They aren't seeing as much occupancy as perhaps they would earlier. Restaurants, interestingly, are getting full in hotels. So obviously that's contributing to revenue. But in terms of realistic recovery, 3 months, 6 months, or does it all depend on travel, on the opening up of international flights?
So India in general does not get a big portion of its tourism from international tourists, right? Except for a few particular destinations. So as we said, if we have to divide the market sort of into two sub-segments of both business travel and leisure travel. As we mentioned, leisure travel is probably almost 70-80%, if not more, at least to certain destinations back to pre-COVID levels. For business travel, I think we are probably looking at a 3 to 6 month time period for us to come back to pre-COVID levels. Again, things could change much quicker than that. So for a lot of these cities like Bangalore, where I'm based out of, so much travel is based out of corporate travel. Most companies, as we know, most MNCs and large corporates are still closed. Everybody's working from home. So a simple change in behavior as companies opening their offices, especially the large ones. A lot of small and medium companies have opened their offices and things are back to normal. But most of the large corporates are still working from home. So small changes like those can have a large cascading effect in the business of us city hoteliers. So yeah, I mean, I think nobody can really predict how long it will take, but we are hopeful that business travel will be back close to 3 to 6 months.
Okay.
Hospitality sector, the mid-budget segment, ARRs, are under pressure. You talked about how branded mid-budget hotels were facing a ARR issue. Tell me in 6 months, what are the positives you see? I mean, sometimes we focus too much on negatives. Let's focus on the positives, because whatever you focus on helps you grow.
So one of the biggest changes that will happen in the hospitality industry, it's already happening, that hospitality industry is going to now change from being a asset heavy industry, asset industry to being an expertise driven industry. Now, just because you own an asset does not mean that you can be successful. You need to know how to utilize that asset, monetize it, and use it to the best of your advantage, which is where not just owning a hotel is important, but knowing how to operate, sell, market, and sort of put the entire business together. So that's where one of the major trends that has been appearing in the hospitality industry is that asset owners are now moving, especially in the small and mid segment. They are moving from sort of lease models to hotel operators like us to sort of revenue sharing and a profit sharing model, because they realize that now things are really difficult, and it's only expertise driven people who have the expertise to make it successful, and hence operators like us who probably are tuned into the new way of digitizing, automizing, and running our hotels efficiently, are getting more and more interest from asset owners who are willing to use our services in a sort of a profit sharing model as opposed to a pure lease kind of a model. So,
okay.
Thank you.
Well, absolutely. Let's just have a quick round actually of trends as well. One trend that's going to stand out in 2021, what's the trend that you've observed that you believe is perhaps going to be the defining one, or you believe is going to play a role in consumers' minds or in the economy of 2021? And last word, Siddharth Goenka.
So technology, automation, artificial intelligence, and all of that probably powers cost optimization. So the whole centralized theme being do more with less by using technology and automation.
Okay, thank you all very much for joining us for today's edition of the NewsX.